Welcome to one of the greatest views of New York City from one of the 5 boroughs of New York, Queens. I was originally born in Peru. I came to New York with my parents when I was 10 years old, just intrigued with the people, how it was possible for so many different nationalities to be living in one single place and different individuals putting in their own story. You could say a love affair began with the city. You look around, you can see the East River behind me. A lot of people don't know this, but New York City is actually made up of islands. The only section of New York that's not an island is actually the Bronx. Further up the East River, you have the western shoreline of Queens. Queens is part of Long Island. Brooklyn is actually part of Long Island as well. Long Island is the largest island on the east coast of the United States. People don't really think of Queens and Brooklyn being part of Long Island since they're part of the municipality of New York City. But right behind me, you could see some of the old ferry terminals of the late 19th century and early 20th century. Before the existence of these bridges, trains used to bring people and cargo from the intersection of Long Island all the way out here to the waterfront, where they were loaded onto special barges that would take them over to the other side. The ferry service went downhill as soon as some of the bridges here on the East River were introduced. So right here, we have the Queensboro Bridge, which actually opened up in 1909. Most people think that it's a suspension bridge, but it's actually made up of metal brackets that makes it a cantilever bridge. We have the section of Manhattan, we call that the Lower East Side, right where you see that power plant right there, which happens to be a steam plant as well. A lot of people always ask, what is the steam coming out of the ground here in New York City? Well, it's actually the steam that's produced from plants like this that it's pumped over to buildings for their heating and the water. Some hospitals even use it for disinfection. Right behind the power plant, you have some of the buildings that were built back in the 1930s as part of the New Deal, which was introduced to replace some of the rundown tenements of the Lower East Side. Unknown to many New Yorkers, that section of the waterfront of the Lower East Side, its old name is Cornelius Hook. Back in the late 19th century, it had the highest concentration of brothels in America. It was the biggest red light district in this country, and that is where the word hooker comes from. Right past the Lower East Side, you also have the Williamsburg Bridge as well, which is the second oldest suspension bridge of New York. A bridge that was built with the hopes of many middle-class and upper-class families of Manhattan moving out to Brooklyn. But in the end, the immigrant masses of the Lower East Side that ended up moving over to the borough. Mostly Eastern European Jewish New Yorkers and many Italians. So till this day, you have one of the largest Hasidic Jewish populations in North America living in Brooklyn. One of the best ways to get out to the airport here in New York is by taking a helicopter from 34th Street over to JFK. You get your passport checked here on 34th Street, get your luggage checked in, and the helicopter will drop you off right next to the terminal. It's much better than taking a cab from Midtown Manhattan out to the airport and waiting through security and to get checked in. Only in the summertime, one of the greatest phenomenons known to the population of New York is something that we call Manhattan Hench. Actually, when the summer solstice happens, the sun comes down in between the buildings right in the middle of 42nd Street. It's aligned. Thousands of people come here to the shorelines of Brooklyn to check it out, to see this amazing, surreal event happen. Of course, at the same time, a lot of parties are also happening as well. What I love about giving tours, it's just meeting the people, first-timers in New York, how excited they get when I tell them a story, something they didn't think it was possible. It's possible in this city. Most people that live here know, New York is New York, America, it's the rest.